Hello again, Year 6. Welcome to your Year 6 English lesson, Lesson 1. As always, you'll need something to write with and your home learning book or some paper to write on. Your task this week is to write a persuasive letter to Michael's parents from Michael's head teacher. We want to tell Michael's parents what we think about their plans to set sail around the world. We will focus on formality and tone. Our persuasive letter will be inspired by the events of our new class text, Kensuke's Kingdom. Each day, we'll build up our ideas and have an extended piece of writing by the end of Friday. Pause your video and write your purpose and audience for this week's writing. Our purpose is to persuade, and our audience, Michael's parents. Before we begin to read the model text, I would like you to have a plan that looks a little like this: paragraph, purpose, and features. As we read, we'll record the purpose of each paragraph, and we will magpie some ideas for our features. I've got about 8 paragraphs in my example, so make sure you leave yourself plenty of space to make your notes. And there'll be a copy on my USO in the shared file if you need it. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I would like to begin by thanking you for your astonishing letter informing us of your intentions to remove your son Michael from Larkrise School and to take him on an extensive trip around the world. I think I speak on behalf of all the staff and children of the school when I say he will be greatly missed, and we wish you luck on your impending trip. Whilst we always support the decision parents make in regard to their child's well-being, I would like to take a few moments to ensure that you have fully considered the consequences of your decision to remove your child from formal education and embark on an unplanned voyage around the world. I will begin by discussing what I believe is the key consideration to make before you set sail. This consideration, which I refer to, is the safety of your child. Have you fully considered the risks involved in sailing an extravagant yacht from the 4 corners of the globe? Michael has informed me that you have had some experience in sailing, but I wonder if manning a sailboat on the open seas is the same as mucking around on a reservoir in a small dinghy. If the unthinkable were to happen and your yacht were to capsize, will you be equipped to tackle such a catastrophe? So we're going to pause our video and we're going to write down the purpose of these first 3 paragraphs. Let's have a look. The first paragraph is the introduction. It sets the tone and explains why we're writing. The second paragraph here is used to set the tone, but explain why the letter is being written. The third paragraph gives the first main reason against going sailing around the world: safety. This is where we begin to start to persuade. I am sure that you have considered the vast number of dangers which await your beloved family in such treacherous waters: colossal tidal waves, being stranded in the doldrums, losing all your worldly possessions in a wreck. Nevertheless, it can be said that your family have begun to make some impressive preparations for your expedition. I have heard from Michael that Mr. Smith is a competent handyman, and Mrs. Smith intends to secure a yachtsmaster's certificate. I do hope that these skills will allow you to avoid all the dreaded dangers which the sea has in store for you. The risks of travelling the world should not, of course, be the only consideration to make when deciding to set sail. Michael's education must be at the forefront of your decision-making. Travelling, exploring and experiencing the wonders of the world, what could be better for a young boy's education? It would seem logical that this could compensate for the huge amount of time Michael will inevitably miss when spending time out at sea. Having the opportunity to set foot on each of the continents and see firsthand the wonderful and diverse cultures of the world is an opportunity very few will ever have a chance to experience. Pause your video and write down the purpose of these 2 paragraphs. This 4th paragraph here is to reinforce the argument. It's where we list the dangers and prove why we're correct to try and persuade them not to travel. This 5th paragraph here shows that we thought about the other side of the argument. These experiences, which he will have as he travels from place to place, will be incredibly valuable, but I do hope that you've also taken into consideration that he will also be isolated on a tiny vessel for weeks, if not months on end, with no one for company except his parents. It must be acknowledged that a child needs companions their own age. Furthermore, they need companions with whom they can form lasting bonds with. Can you honestly say that Michael will be able to do this as he jumps from country to country? In conclusion, I believe that your journey may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Michael. He might be able to see everything which the world has to offer. That being said, it cannot be ignored that he will also experience some of the immeasurable dangers which the world has to offer too. Whether you continue with your risky decision to embark on this extraordinary journey or choose the more sensible option of remaining here, we wish you all the best for the future. If you do still plan to travel, we look forward to hearing all about your miraculous travels when you safely return to England. Kind regards, Mr. F. Jones, Head Teacher. Again, pause your video and write down the purpose of these last paragraphs. The 6th paragraph is giving another reason not to sail, Michael's well-being. The next paragraph sums up both the arguments we had today, just to reinforce what they think. The final paragraph is a last chance to persuade before the end of the letter and tells the reader what they want them to do next. So today we're going to identify the features of a formal persuasive letter. We just read an example of a formal persuasive letter. For this week, our audience is Michael's parents, and we as the author are pretending to be Michael's head teacher. What is a formal letter? A formal letter has an official purpose. It contains language choices which set a serious tone. It avoids chatty language. A formal letter is usually written to someone who we don't know very well. The author is Michael's head teacher, and the audience Michael's parents. When do we use formal language? We use formal language when we want to speak for an official purpose, when we want to be taken seriously, when we speak to someone who we do not know very well. The author of this letter will be Michael's head teacher. The audience will be Michael's parents. This gives us a really good idea of the formalities we need to use. So which example is trying to be persuasive? I don't know why you want to go sailing. I do not think sailing is such a good idea. In my honest opinion, sailing is dangerous and shouldn't be attempted. Pause the video and have a go. This third example is a good example of persuasive writing. Copy down any ideas that you would like to use in your own writing. Which example is trying to persuade? Have you considered what might happen if you capsize? Boats can capsize. If not properly sailed, boats can capsize. Pause the video and have a go. This first example is a good example of trying to persuade, using a rhetorical question. Write down any examples you'd like to use yourself. Which example is trying to persuade? Sailing to new places is great, but I don't like it. I know sailing around the world holds many wonders, but it also holds a great deal of danger. Sailing is dangerous. Pause the video and have a go. This second example is a good example of persuasion. Write down any you'd like to use in your own writing. Which example would be a good way to begin a formal persuasive letter? I would like to begin by thanking you for your astonishing letter informing us of your intentions to remove your son Michael from Larkbriar School and take him on an extensive trip around the world. I really want to start by telling you that I really do not think sailing around the world is a good idea. It really does not sound safe to me. I am writing to tell you not to go sailing around the world. Pause your video and decide which one is the best beginning for a formal persuasive letter. This first example. So which example would be a good way to begin the main point of a formal persuasive letter? You can't go sailing around the world. It just is not safe. Let me begin by outlining why I think sailing is an unsafe activity for you and your family. First, do not go sailing around the world. You could capsize your boat. The second example here uses formal language. We use words like outlining, unsafe activity. It also explains that we're about to begin to talk about our main point. Well done if you spotted that one. Which example is being the most persuasive? You need to listen to me when I tell you that sailing is dangerous. Many people make the mistake of sailing when not properly trained. Do you want to be one of them? Sailing can be an enjoyable pastime, but for some, it can be a dangerous pastime. Which example do you think is the most persuasive? And start to think about which one is the least persuasive and why you think this. The second example is a good example of persuasion. We use a rhetorical question and formal language. Which do you think is the least persuasive? This first example, it isn't trying to persuade, it's just trying to tell, and it doesn't use very formal language. So we're going to identify the features of a formal persuasive letter, and we're going to get ready to plan our letter today. We're writing as the head teacher of Michael's school. We're writing to Michael's parents. We want to tell them our thoughts about their journey. So let's have a look at my first plan. How can this plan be changed to allow me to write a stronger, persuasive formal letter? Have a read through my plan example and see what edits you would make. Okay, let's have a look. I found some places where I want to improve my plan. First of all, I need to put the details into my planning, explain why. I also need to make sure I'm being specific about the persuasion I'm trying to make. I want to add plenty of detail into my plan to make it easy to write when I come to my letter writing. I need to make sure that my main point is mentioned towards the beginning of my letter. By paragraph 4, it's too late. And I need to make sure that I'm persuading throughout my letter, not just at the end. So here's an example of a plan which has lots of detail. You might want to pause the video and have a look at what a good one looks like. Can you see all the times I've added in that extra detail? Persuade means that you want to convince your reader that what you're saying is true. We're trying to persuade Michael's parents to think again about travelling the world on a yacht. So now it's your turn, Year 6. Your task is to plan your letter, from Michael's head teacher to Michael's parents. Today is just the plan. We're going to plan out each paragraph, making sure it has a purpose. We've got our table from the beginning of the lesson to support those purposeful paragraphs. By the end of the final letter on Friday, Michael's parents should know how the head teacher feels about the trip, and they should begin to think carefully about whether or not they should even go. So here's our plan from the beginning of the lesson, where we looked at each purpose for each paragraph. And now you're ready to get started. So by the end of the session today, you should have your plan for your letter ready to begin writing tomorrow. This is the end of your video, Year 6. Good luck with your planning.